Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive pivot happening right now in the tech world. If you've just been skimming the headlines lately, you'd probably think the entire AI industry is just this endless race to build a smarter, faster, shinier digital brain. But the data we are digging into today tells a totally different story. It's a story about a massive, fundamental shift in how AI is actually deployed, managed, and, most importantly, paid for in the real world. So, where is this war actually going to be won? Well, let's dive into it because the answer absolutely isn't in some futuristic lab creating the smartest AI model anymore. It's happening right now, right in your company's boardroom. It's happening in your IT department, your compliance office, and your finance team. The battle lines have totally shifted. We are seeing this incredible paradigm shift. We're moving completely away from that old obsession with model IQ benchmarks and squarely into the present reality of deployment, governance, and billing ecosystems. The AI models themselves, they're basically becoming commoditized at this point. The real value, the new unbreachable moat for these tech giants, is building the operating system that actually allows an enterprise to use these models safely, without breaking the bank or triggering a massive compliance nightmare. To wrap our heads around this complex shift, we'll hit these 5 points. 1. The real AI battlefield. 2. Deployment in the field. 3. Why readiness is the bottleneck. 4. The harsh reality of governance and billing. And 5, we'll wrap up with a new AI survival guide. Let's get to it. Okay, Section 1, the real AI battlefield, moving past the model hype. Because in 2026, it's no longer about showing off a cool magic trick. It's about safely wiring AI into the actual corporate nervous system. That takes us to Section 2, deployment, AI in the field, and OpenAI's massive pivot. Because honestly, nobody illustrates this shift better than OpenAI right now. They're actively transforming from a simple model provider into a totally hands-on deployment company. And they are putting their money where their mouth is. OpenAI just poured over $4 billion with a B of initial funding into this deployment initiative. That proves getting AI into the field is the absolute top priority. That $4 billion isn't for training a flashy new model. That is cash dedicated strictly to deployment, acquisitions, and building the infrastructure needed to quite literally hold the hands of their enterprise customers. To actually pull this off, they've launched with about 150 dedicated forward-deployed engineers. And their sole job? To go on-site and integrate AI with messy legacy infrastructure, complicated security models, and strict compliance rules. These engineers aren't in a sterile lab tweaking algorithms. They are deep in the corporate trenches, dealing with crazy edge cases, tangled permission structures, and the absolute reality of corporate IT. This brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast we are seeing on the product side right now. We are moving entirely from the old way, employees using their own isolated ChatGPT tabs, to this totally new world of shared workspace agents that act as actual organizational assets, right in Slack or Teams. Think about the massive difference there. An isolated tab is just personal productivity. A workspace agent, that's a shared team member running in the cloud, following approval steps, and executing standardized company processes. It's the shift from a toy to a highly regulated tool. Which leads us to Section 3, bottleneck, readiness over tech, why humans are the holdup. Because the crazy part is, the biggest roadblock here isn't the machine, it's us. Just look at this data from Microsoft Work Lab. It shows a truly staggering reality. Nearly 80% of organizations simply don't have the data sharing infrastructure required to actually support agentic AI. I mean, you can go out and buy the absolute most advanced AI agent on the planet, but if your HR data system refuses to talk to your finance data, or your departments are walled off from each other, that shiny new agent is essentially flying blind. And it gets worse. Only 22% of leaders strongly agree that they have sufficiently documented the processes these AI agents are even supposed to automate. Let that sink in for a second. We are desperately asking AI to automate our workflows, but almost 80% of us haven't even written down what those workflows actually are. The bottleneck isn't the AI's IQ, it's pure organizational readiness. Backing this up perfectly, Deloitte found that while 78% of companies plan to spend way more on AI, 69% admit it will take them over a year just to complete their governance strategies. It's a massive, glaring disconnect. Everyone wants to spend the money, everyone wants the promised efficiency, but creating the basic rules of the road, like who has access, who audits the AI, who's responsible when it breaks, that's taking companies over 12 months to figure out. So that brings us to Section 4, the reality of governance and billing, turning AI into an operational expense. Because AI today requires strict controls and totally changes how budgets work. A great way to think about AI governance is to not view it as a roadblock, but rather as the brakes on a high-speed car. You wouldn't safely drive an AI agent at 200 miles per hour without world-class brakes, right? Things like logs, permissions, and strict data policies. People often complain that governance slows down innovation. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Having ultra-reliable brakes is literally the only thing that gives an enterprise the confidence to step on the gas and deploy AI company-wide. But building those brakes, it takes a lot of time and money, and Microsoft Purview proves it. Managing something like ChatGPT Enterprise requires setting up separate pay-as-you-go billing, defining totally new collection policies, and waiting over 24 hours just to run the initial data scans. It is absolutely not an instant toggle switch you just flick on. Setting up this safety net is a massive, complex infrastructure project all on its own. OpenAI is totally enforcing this brake system too. They're making compliance logs a fundamental product requirement, with 30-day immutable retention and deep partner integrations just to qualify for enterprise sales. If they want to sell to a heavily regulated bank or a major healthcare provider, having a really smart chatbot isn't even close to enough. They have to provide those immutable logs, e-discovery, and data loss prevention readiness right out of the box. Meanwhile, over at GitHub, they are radically shifting how we actually pay for all this stuff. They're turning Copilot from a predictable flat-rate sauce seat into a strict usage-based operational budget with zero automatic fallbacks. The old days of just paying a flat monthly fee for unlimited AI magic, yeah, those are ending. As these agents start doing incredibly complex multi-step tasks, they chew through massive amounts of computing power, and vendors are passing that cost directly to your usage bill. Look at the massive cost gap on this table. Choosing to run a long agentic session on GPT 5.5 versus a mini model fundamentally changes an entire department's budget. It makes pricing tables the new strategic policy documents. Think about it. If your agent spits out 1 million tokens on GPT 5.5, that's $30. But on a mini model, it's just $2. When you scale that up across thousands of employees doing dozens of tasks every single day, model selection isn't just a nerdy technical choice anymore. It is absolutely a critical financial strategy. And to manage this, GitHub now allocates pooled AI credits per user. If a developer burns through all those credits running complex multi-tool agent sessions, guess what? The AI simply stops working unless the budget is explicitly increased. There's no quiet downgrade to a cheaper model behind the scenes. It is a hard stop. This is forcing organizations to finally manage their AI consumption, exactly like they manage their massive cloud computing budgets. So let's wrap this up with Section 5, the new AI Survival Guide, a checklist for builders and buyers trying to make sense of all this. Here is the clear checklist you should take away from this explainer today. You need to look for deep workflow penetration, explicit ROI that actually justifies those usage token costs, and a remarkably robust operating control plane for your audits and approvals. Basically, if you're building or buying an AI tool, don't just fixate on making it smarter. Focus on how deeply you can integrate it into the tools where the user already works, and ensure you have the strict governance features that modern enterprises demand. Because ultimately, as we've seen, AI models are going to be easily swapped out. But the system that firmly holds your data connections, your approval flows, and your audit logs, that is incredibly hard to replace. That is the true moat in this industry. Once a company wires its operational nervous system into a specific AI governance platform, trying to tear that out is a multi-year, multi-million-dollar nightmare. So I want to leave you with this final, truly critical thought to reflect on today. As AI development continues to speed up at an unbelievable pace, does your organization actually have the infrastructure and the world-class brakes ready to deploy it safely? Because the technology is revving its engine on the starting line right now, but it's your governance, your data, and your operating system that will ultimately determine if you win the race or crash on the very first turn. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it helped clear up exactly where the real AI battlefield is being fought today.